Hannibal brings Rome to the edge. On the 2nd of August, 216 BC, on the flat, burning plain of Cannae in southern Italy, Hannibal Barca watches the Roman army march straight into his trap. He is outnumbered, and he knows Rome believes numbers are destiny. Hannibal lets the center of his line bend, then closes the jaws, and the Roman formation becomes a sealed box of heat, dust, and panic. By the end of the day, Rome has lost tens of thousands of men, and something even bigger than an army breaks. The myth of Roman invincibility cracks in public, in the Senate, and in every farm village that sent sons to fight. Rome does not surrender, but it changes, hardening itself into a war machine that can swallow loss and still keep moving. It learns to mobilize allies, raise new legions, and accept emergency powers that would have once felt unthinkable. From this point on, Rome will never feel truly safe again. Hannibal cannot take the city, yet he forces Rome into a new kind of fear, the kind that never fully leaves. And when a state lives on fear for long enough, it starts to aim that fear inward, searching for enemies at home. The next shock will not come from across the Alps, but from inside Italy, behind locked gates, where men fight for sport and learn how to fight for freedom. Spartacus lights the fuse inside Rome. In the spring of 73 BC, in a gladiator school in Capua, Spartacus, a Thracian fighter in chains, turns kitchen knives into weapons and a training yard into a battlefield. He escapes with a small group, steals real arms, and climbs Mount Vesuvius, where Rome expects him to starve. Instead, Spartacus becomes a magnet for the desperate, slaves, farmhands, and the punished, until a camp of runaways turns into an army. Rome keeps sending forces that expect a riot, not a campaign. And Spartacus keeps breaking them. Columns vanish on narrow roads. Officers die in vineyards. Villages watch, stunned, as the people at the bottom of society suddenly move like a disciplined force. For the elite, the terror is not only violence, it is the idea that the social order is reversible. When Marcus Licinius Crassus finally takes command, the response becomes systematic and merciless. The revolt is crushed, and thousands of captured men are displayed along the Appian Way as a warning that Rome will never tolerate the loss of control. The message is clear. The state will answer chaos with stronger men and harsher tools. In that climate, words start to matter less than power. Yet one man still believes speeches can hold the Republic together, even as the knives come out. Cicero watches the Republic collapse. On the 7th of December, 43 BC, near Formiae on the coast south of Rome, Marcus Tullius Cicero is dragged from a litter and forced to kneel. He is not a general, and he has no army, only a lifetime of speeches, laws, and letters. He has spent years warning that the Republic is collapsing into personal rule, and he has publicly attacked Mark Antony, believing the old system can be saved if tyrants are named and resisted. Now, the Republic answers with a list. Cicero's name is on it because the new rulers do not want debate, they want silence. His death is a warning to anyone who thinks politics is still about persuasion. It is also a sign that Rome has crossed a line, from rivalry to extermination, from elections to purges. Cicero dies as the Republic dies, and the vacuum that follows does not stay empty for long. When laws stop deciding who leads, armies do. And one commander has already tested how far Rome will let him go because he once stood at a small river in northern Italy and made a choice that turned disagreement into civil war. Caesar crosses the line. In early January of 49 BC, at the Rubicon in northern Italy, Julius Caesar pauses with his troops at the boundary he is not supposed to cross under arms. He is a celebrated general, fresh from years of war in Gaul, and he is also a politician boxed in by enemies who want him powerless. If he steps over, it is rebellion. If he steps back, it is ruin. Caesar chooses forward, and the Republic's rules become a memory. What follows is fast, ruthless, and strangely modern. Caesar moves like a machine, taking cities with speed, offering mercy when it buys loyalty, crushing resistance when it does not. He wins, and then he reforms, centralizing power, reshaping offices, and making himself the unmissable center of Rome. For some, he is stability. For others, he is a crown waiting to be placed. On the 15th of March, 44 BC, in the Senate House in Rome, conspirators stab Caesar to death, convinced they have saved the Republic. Instead, they have removed the only thing holding the violence in one place. The fight for Rome's future spills across the Mediterranean, and one of the most valuable prizes is not in Italy at all, but in Alexandria, where a queen is watching and calculating. Cleopatra plays world politics. In August of 30 BC in Alexandria in Egypt, Cleopatra VII waits behind palace walls while Roman soldiers close in on the city. She has ruled a rich kingdom that sits at the hinge of the Mediterranean, and she has tried to keep it independent by tying her fate to Rome's strongest men. First Julius Caesar, then Mark Antony, not as romance, but as strategy, because she understands that Rome is no longer a neighbor, it is a storm system. That strategy almost works until it does not. At Actium, Octavian's forces break Antony's fleet, and the alliance that held Cleopatra's throne together collapses. Now Rome is at her gates, and surrender means captivity, humiliation, and the end of her dynasty. She chooses a different ending, one that will become legend, but the political result is simple and brutal. Egypt becomes a Roman possession, and Rome gains a river of grain and gold. With Cleopatra gone, the last great rival power in the Mediterranean falls under Roman control, and the winner returns to Rome with something no one else has: the wealth of Egypt and the aura of victory. Octavian will not call himself king because he has seen what happens to kings in Rome. He will build something far cleverer, a system that looks familiar while it quietly locks power in place. Augustus builds a new system. In January of 27 BC, inside the Roman Senate House, Gaius Octavius, known as Octavian, stands before the men who once called themselves the guardians of the Republic. He offers to resign his extraordinary powers, and the room performs a ritual of refusal. They beg him to stay, they grant him titles, and they give him a new name, Augustus, a word that tastes like sacred authority without saying monarchy out loud. Augustus learns the central lesson of Rome's chaos. Open dictatorship invites assassination, but controlled tradition invites obedience. He keeps elections, offices, and the language of the Republic, yet he holds the army, the treasury, and the key provinces where legions live. He builds roads, reforms taxes, polices morals, and turns victory into a stable routine. Rome breathes again, and that relief becomes loyalty. But the price of the new peace is dependence on one household, one line of succession, and one personality at the top. A bad emperor cannot be voted out, and a strong system can become a trap if the wrong man inherits it. Augustus has created an empire that can last for centuries, but he has also created the perfect stage for a disaster in a crown. Nero shows the dark side of power. On a stifling night in July of 64 AD in Rome, Emperor Nero wakes to flames racing through narrow streets and wooden stalls. The fire will rage for days, and the capital of the empire will look like a blackened skeleton when it ends. Nero is young, famous, and surrounded by court politics, and now he faces the kind of crisis that reveals whether power is responsibility or performance. Ancient sources argue over what he did and why, but the public memory hardens into a single image: a ruler who rebuilds grandly while ordinary people mourn. Nero launches construction, reshapes parts of the city, and searches for scapegoats to restore control. Fear returns to the center of Rome, not the fear of Hannibal at the gates, but the fear of the state's mood, the fear that law can be bent into punishment when the palace needs it. Nero's reign shows the shadow side of Augustus's invention. When authority sits in one person long enough, the empire becomes a mirror of that person's appetites and insecurities. By the time Nero is driven to suicide, Rome has learned a final lesson about empire. Conquest and order are not enough because legitimacy is fragile. And that raises a deeper question. Why did Rome become addicted to expansion in the first place? To answer it, you have to leave Rome and go back to the moment the ancient world first saw what a single, unstoppable conqueror could look like. Alexander leaves a blueprint for empires. In the spring of 334 BC, at the Hellespont, near the ruins of Troy, Alexander of Macedon steps onto Asian soil and makes the war personal. He is in his early 20s, already a king, and he believes he is meant for something larger than Macedonia. He marches east not just to win battles, but to rewrite the map, and he does it with speed that feels impossible in the ancient world. Alexander shatters the Persian defenses, takes cities that have never heard his name, and keeps moving, deeper into an empire that once seemed eternal. His victories create a new cultural layer: Greek language, Greek cities, blended elites, and a shared political imagination that stretches from the Mediterranean to the edges of India. Even after his early death in Babylon, the world he leaves behind is changed, because now everyone has seen the shape of a world empire. Rome grows up in that shadow. It learns from Greek culture, competes with Hellenistic kingdoms, and eventually inherits their territories. The figures you have just met are not random legends. They are the chain reaction that turns Rome from a city into the owner of an entire world. If you liked this video, hit subscribe for more like it, and let me know in the comments what you want to see next.